All righty. It is 6 p.m. and we will call to order this week's regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Tuesday, May 12th, 2026, at 6 p.m. here. First on the agenda this evening is roll call.
Good evening, Commissioners. Roll call. Brian Clark, Commissioner.
Present.
Bobby Rosadillo.
Present.
Jim Main.
Present.
Commissioner Chad Queen.
Present.
Commissioner Kristen Sandu.
Present.
Oh, sorry, I think I took staff by surprise there. All right. Next up this evening is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, this evening we've got a couple of public hearings. I think we still have a couple people signing up. I don't have that form in front of me here, so I think that's what Doug was signaling. While we get moving here, first up this evening we have case numbers 25-03-AN, 25-10-S, 25-30-DR, and 2501-DA for Selkirk Ranch. Mrs. Lundy.
Good evening, members of the Commission. For the record, Marina Lundy, Associate Planner, CUNA Development Services Department. The application before you this evening requests approval of an annexation, preliminary plat, and design review for approximately 40 acres of mixed-use development located at the intersection of South Linder and West Hubbard Road. The applicant is proposing R6 and C2 zoning for a development consisting of 149 single-family residential lots and 4 commercial lots. The applicant has proposed a development agreement providing that the 4 commercial lots will be developed first, as capacity at the Danskin lift station is currently limited. The planned Mason Creek trunk line is anticipated to provide sufficient capacity to serve the residential portion of the project once it's completed. Anticipating completion for that is within the next 2 to 3 years. Staff has reviewed the application for compliance with CUNA City Code, applicable Idaho statutes, and the CUNA Comprehensive Plan. Should the Commission recommend approval of the application, staff recommends that it be subject to the proposed conditions outlined in the staff report. I'll be here for any questions that you have, and the applicant is present and has prepared a presentation.
Are there any questions for staff prior to the applicant presentation?
No.
Okay. If the applicant would go ahead and come up to the podium. And you know the drill. If you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Kekritz. I am with Gibbons Priestley Law Firm. I am land use counsel on this. With me today is Randy Parno, one of the developers, and Teller Bard, our engineer with Finley Horn. They'll be able to answer any questions that I'm not able to. I'd like to start just by introducing you to Randy and a few of the things he's done. This is his first foray into CUNA, but he has successfully developed some really nice projects in really everywhere but CUNA at this point. Star, Meridian, Eagle, Caldwell, Nampa, Boise, and so he's excited to bring one of his projects here to CUNA. I also want to start by saying thank you to Marina. As always, the staff in CUNA is so much better than staff in so many places where we work, and it's just really appreciated that you call here and you actually get someone on the phone. And so I really do thank her for that. So let's just jump right into it. Here's the location of the property. You You can see it's right at about 30 acres at the northwest corner of Hubbard and Linder, and it's surrounded, I mean, it's really surrounded by subdivisions within the city of Cuna, which makes this an infill site. The future land use map designates the property as both mixed use, on most of the property, and then medium density residential on the north. And so we've proposed a development that takes advantage of this with commercial lots along the hard corner, and, the development of the residential in the remainder of the lots, with the smaller lots closer to the major roads, and they're generally tracking larger as you move to the northwest in this property. You can see here, we are proposing C2 zoning on the corner and R6 zoning throughout the rest. There's C3 across the street, there's more R1 in the area, and then the R6 is very compatible with a lot of this residential that's surrounding it. We do meet with many of the goals of the comprehensive plan. I don't need to go into all of them, but we do have the commercial corner lots that create economic corridors. It's a highly amenitized neighborhood, really good amenities, enhanced landscaping along Linder. Just all sorts of the different comprehensive plan goals are met here. So moving right into the preliminary plat, there are 149 single-family residential lots, and we're actually proposing 6 commercial lots, which gives different owners, different abilities to move lot lines around. So if you decide to have one bigger lot, have a couple smaller ones as that develops out. And I also think if you look at this, the lot sizes, you can see here they're smaller. They're all R6 lots, and they are trending larger as you move towards Denali Heights. All of the lot sizes on our boundary, they do meet all of the R4 development sizes, and so they would qualify as R4 lots, which is identical to what's in Denali Heights to the west here. You can see here, there's a large community center in the middle. It's about a 3.5-acre park. There's also a little bit more of a pocket park here. And one of the things that we knew and we've anticipated is that the residents coming into the development on Sagwan, the people in Denali Heights have enjoyed living over here without having the connection through. And one of the concerns is that we want to help reduce and eliminate cut-through traffic. And so coming through here, it's not just a fast in coming off of Hubbard, off of Linder. Instead, you really do have to go around. It's really tried to be thoughtful in the design to try to eliminate and alleviate some of that concern of pass-through traffic, of vehicles going too quickly, to make this a development that both the residents of Selkirk Ranch and that it wouldn't be an imposition on the residents of Denali Heights. There's also the curb cut going south to the property when it eventually develops, and there'll be stub, and there's one getting stubbed north. The primary entrances and exits, there will be 2 accesses onto Linder Road, one onto Hubbard Road. These will be developed to commercial road standards, the 2 right here and here adjacent to commercial, and then there'll be a cross-access easement so that all of the commercial lots can access one another. There are a lot of traffic improvements going on here right now and moving into the future. Currently, ACHD is doing pavement improvements. Says sidewalks on there, they're not doing sidewalks right now, but at least I should send you before I realize that. Doing pavement improvements, and then it's expected to be widened to 3 lanes in the next 5 to 8, 10 years. And of course, we're also dedicating quite a bit of right-of-way to be able to facilitate those improvements, as well as doing curb gutter sidewalk. And then on Linder, it is anticipated to be improved to 3 lanes within the next, at this point, 3 to 4 or 5 years, and then ultimately build out at 5 lanes. There are also intersection improvements that are anticipated to take place between 2031 and 2035. Per ACHD and the traffic studies, you can see this down here, the level of service that these roads are continuing to operate acceptably for 2-lane minor arterials. There are really won't be known until it builds out, is about 864,000, or around $1 million in impact fees. But one of the other questions that always comes up is what's going on with the schools. And here, Randy and his team recognize that there is effects on the schools from this development. This isn't one of the huge developments that you sometimes see where they can donate an entire school site, or anything of that nature. So they wanted to know what they could do to help alleviate that impact. And in meeting with the school district, they discussed that one of the issues that the high school is having is because it's been growing so much, they just don't have enough parking lot capacity, and there are shoes parking on the roads surrounding the high school. And we all can know that that is probably not the ideal place for high school students to be parking. And so what Randy has agreed to do, what we've entered into an agreement for, is to do a parking lot improvement. It will add capacity to the parking lot. It will be 128 spaces, I believe. And so that was something that he worked with the school district on figuring out. So that should reduce some of the parking overflow on the surrounding streets. Open space, you can see that it's just a really walkable, development between the sidewalks and the pathways going through. We do meet all of the open space requirements. One of the things that Randy does a really nice job on are the amenities. And in this place, they are going to have a park area with a rope and climber playground, sort of a really active playground, as well as a pool and associated changing rooms and clubhouses, and a pool house associated with that. Here you can see it is 3.5 acres, so it's quite large. Here is the Star Paint pool, which is a pool we developed on a smaller development, so this would be upsized accordingly, the pool that they would put in here. The phasing, it looks like it'll be about 5 years to complete out all the various phases. And so by that point in time, also we anticipate that some of the additional ACHD road improvements will have been made. And so with that, we do agree with the conditions of approval, and we are requesting a recommendation of approval. I'll stand for any questions.
So, sorry, I have a question regarding the traffic impact study that you did. So you're bringing in, you said 149 homes.
Yes.
So on the traffic impact study, it mentions that the roadways that are cited in there are going to be Linder Road going east and west, or sorry, Hubbard Road going east and west, Linder Road going up to Columbia, and then Columbia going over towards Meridian. So with the 149 homes, you stated in the application that you're within 2 miles from CUNA High School, CUNA Middle School, and Fremont Middle School, which are, I'm assuming within the zone for the kids that are going to be in this neighborhood. Does it take into account any of the traffic that's going to be heading south during peak AM hours during school drop-off?
The traffic study did. In the morning during the peak hour traffic, they anticipate this development will have 363 peak hour traffic trips, and at night there'll be 376. I can look up here what they anticipate the breakdown of that being. The one I do know is that 45% is expected to go north, just head north and then disperse from there. Go north on Linder and then disperse. But if you give me a minute, or I can tell you during rebuttal exactly what.
No, that's fine. And if you don't mind, I just have kind of a follow-up question for that. Does the traffic impact study include anything that's in the, project pipeline, any houses that are approved but not yet built?
Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Basilio, it absolutely does, is that they look at, the traffic engineer looks at pipeline projects and also, uses it typically as a 3% annual growth year over year, no matter what, plus they're looking at the pipeline projects. We do have, Teller Bard here, who may be able to speak a little bit more directly to that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question, ma'am. I noticed in the ACHD study that Sitka Avenue and Saginaw Drive are too narrow to pass their approval, and that they need a 36 feet at Sitka with the associated developments, 33 at Saginaw, and then the 50-foot radius turn. How do you guys address that?
Yeah, we are.
Or if you said it, I missed it, I apologize.
We did not. Great question. I feel like every single time we
Sagwan off Linder and then
Yeah.
Sitka off Hubbard.
It's just a little bit wider right of way, and so it just cuts into these commercial lots a little bit, is how he put it.
Now, on that same note, the city of Cuba maintains a 36-foot minimum standard with, a lot of these streets have been done at 33 for the interior. Would that be addressed as well?
Yes.
Sorry. And going back to traffic, you said that, I'm sorry, maybe you didn't say it. What is the anticipated completion date for all the phases?
About 5 years out, so 2030, 2031.
Okay, and the completion dates for the improvements that ACHD has in there between 2031 and 2035?
Starting now, 2026, some of them are between now and 2030. The first road widening for Linder is supposed to be done by 2040.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time? All right, thank you so much. All right, we'll move into the public, we'll move into the public hearing. Sorry, I'm still getting my order of operations here. So as noted previously, correct me if I'm wrong, staff, each person who is signed up to testify will have 3 minutes. If you hear a buzzer, please wrap up in a sentence or two, and please cede to the next person who signed up. So we'll try and keep this orderly this evening. First up to testify this evening, I'm sorry, is that Elizabeth at the top of the list here?
That is me.
Yeah, I think you're done for a minute here.
I am done.
All right, next up to testify this evening is John Larway. And as previously noted, yep,
John Laraway, live at 9288 South Riley Creek Avenue in Cuna. I've lived on the corner back here for 13, 14 years, and I know it was gonna be developed. It is what it is. The only complaint that I have is a policy that CUNA has and ACHD has, calling it connectivity. And they're gonna run the road down Sagwan right by my house. Now, if you look, most of these cars, that if they're gonna be going to 10 Mile, they're not gonna go out to Linder down to Hubbard. They're gonna go through the neighborhood. I know I can't stop that either, but I have a request that they put speed bumps in at Sagwan and Riley Creek. And I know it can be done because of the XX traffic going down Kelson since they've redone Hubbard, they've got speed bumps to control the traffic. They also did the same thing in Meridian on Muirfield to control the traffic off Black Cat. So I know they allow speed bumps. At minimum, hopefully the speed bumps, but if not, if we can get ACHD or the developer to put a stop sign in at the corner of Riley Creek and Sagwan. That'll control some of the speed coming out of the neighborhood, because not all of them are gonna go to Hubbard Linder. It just doesn't function that way. So hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. Appreciate your time, commissioners.
thank you. Next up to testify, I have Mr. Jensen.
Tim Jensen with Cuna School District, 711 East Porter Street here in Cuna. Just want to come up and confirm the agreement we've made with the developer on the added parking for Cuna High School, and so they've been great from the get-go to work with us on, what our needs would be. One thing I wanted to add to that parking, obviously with the growth, it's, added more vehicles to it, but I'm also the principal at Fremont Middle School, which is directly behind Cuna High School. And it's one of our big safety issues we have with that, without adequate parking. our middle school kids and our high school kids get out at the same time. And so we have high school kids that park along Porter all the time because they don't have anywhere to park. At the same time, my middle school kids are trying to get out to buses, cross the road and stuff like that. So it addresses two things for CUNA School District, obviously the parking capacity issue, but then, you know, for someone that's in, you know, principal of a building right behind it, it addresses the safety issue that we have with, you know, our middle school kiddos as they're trying to transition at the beginning and the end of the day. So, but just want to stand up here and support and again, say the developer's been great to work with. We've already finalized MOU and have worked with them, so, and I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Jensen this time?
Thank you.
Tim. All right. That is the end of my list to testify on this case. Is there anybody in the audience who either wants to change from a not testify to a testify, or who would like to sign up to testify in this application? I don't currently see anybody. Elizabeth, if you'd like to rebut?
Thank you. Elizabeth Kekaritz, 601 Bannock Street, Boise, Idaho. Just a couple comments really quickly on the traffic. We are absolutely willing to work with ACHD to do whatever sort of traffic calming we're allowed to do. As you know, they are in charge of their streets. It takes a lot from the neighbors to get them to allow you to do traffic bumps. I've only been able to get there a few times, but there are traffic bumps. We can talk to them about stop signs. I mean, this is within their purview, and so there are traffic calming measures that we can look at and can certainly talk to Mr. Laraway about on what additional things we could do and what we realistically can do with ACHD being there, being in charge of those streets. Oh no. I just went to flip to it and I lost the page. I was so proud of having your answer ready for you. It was, as I said, it was 45% going north. I think it's right at the end of these. Yeah, what the traffic engineers estimate is that 45% will go north out of this development on Linder. Of that, then a large part of them will be turning on Columbia. 20% will go out Hubbard direct to get to the highway, and 15% will go south on Hubbard Road, is what's being estimated. I mean, south on Linder Road. And then 20% also going, 20% going east on Hubbard, 20% going west on Hubbard, 15% going south, and then the rest sort of going north on Lindard and spreading out from there.
I'm chuckling because I'm blaming my cohort in crime here for the directional
Yeah.
flub here. Yes, I like to go south on Hubbard all the time.
Yeah. And with that, unless you have any other questions, we would ask for your approval. It just makes a lot of sense. This is an area that is, as Mr. Lara mentioned, it is a place that it is now really within the city of Cuna. It's a nice development. It makes a lot of sense. It hits the goals. It's a mixed-use development without bringing in super high-density apartments or anything like that. Every house, it's all single-family detached homes. And they have been in talks with various commercial developers for, retail, professional office, that sort of thing for this location, things that would be really great for the neighborhood. So with that, I would ask for a recommendation of approval.
All right, thank you kindly. Okay, I believe that brings us to the end of the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Public hearing is closed, 6:25. And that brings us to us.
as far as applications go, I think it's well thought out. It sounds like they've listened to, neighbors, with, keeping in mind the R4, boundaries and stuff like that. Just my main concern is the traffic impact study and the fact that it doesn't address what happens to that traffic after it would go south onto Linder. When you start going into town, it's much more congested, especially during school drop-off hours. And so while we know that Hubbard's going to be improved and Meridian at Hubbard's going to be improved, there's going to be a roundabout. What's that going to do at Deer Flat and Linder? What's that going to do heading down towards CUNA High or CUNA Middle School? What is it going to do to all that traffic when they're dropping them off? I mean, anybody that drives around right now knows that it can be a disaster, especially around the high school with all the kids coming in and going.
I too agree that I like that they tried to mirror some of the Denali Heights and stage the size of the lots for that. If the traffic is gonna be a challenge for that area of development, it fits. The commercial is a large component in their development plan. And like she said, they're not, multifamily, so for the size of the lot, the density is probably appropriate for location.
Yeah, I mean, I think, all things considered, it sounds like this has changed quite a bit from, what you've heard in the past. So, for what they're bringing, I think it makes sense.
So I mean, layout, everything looks nice. The big thing for me right now is this is an annexation of an additional 149 homes into our community. As it stands today, and of course, everything I have is anecdotal, but I don't have the traffic impact study to live with, but just my lived experience here. Saturday afternoon, coming up out of CUNA, taking 10 Mile Road North and driving by a line of cars that was stacked on Lake Hazel, from Lake Hazel, all the way up to the next major intersection at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. And I've had similar experiences going north, coming out of the community, going up the Meridian, up into Boise, and similar coming home on Meridian Road every day. The number of accidents we have on Meridian, every new lot that comes to the community unfortunately has an impact. And I don't wanna seem short-sighted, because of course the improvements are coming. And as noted previously, the improvements don't come without approvals, because we're kinda sitting behind the 8 ball with ACHD. So, I mean, that's really my biggest concern, is just the overall impact of the additional homes. Right now, this is a community this is county property currently, and this is an annexation case. So that is just a big thing for us to consider, is that's 330 trips per day that don't currently exist, or 400 some odd trips per day. So it's just worth note. As from a design standpoint, it looks like a really nice little community.
Yeah. Well, like you said too, I mean, the other things to consider for, adding the additional homes are gonna be, the school capacity. It's gonna be, I know that they said that the new trunk lines should be done in 2 to 3 years, but if there's any delays on that while they're
sewer.
building, so for sewer, that's, something to consider as well. So, but yeah, it is additional stress on our resources and our,
Well, as far as the sewer is concerned, I was reading through that report, and they're currently doing some modification of the system and diverting 3,000 units up the other main. So, that's freeing up a lot of space in this trunk line. So those improvements, that's gonna come one way or another.
Yeah.
We're always gonna need more capacity, so,
It's a self-managing timeline though, right?
yeah. It is a self-managing title, and they can't get building permits without the sewer credits,
Right.
so.
Which I see they considered in their design, because they start with commercial and then go to the
Yep.
central lot.
Yeah, so like I said, it's intelligently done, and I just have my overall concerns with
100%.
just the impacts of the community in general.
I think the problem with the traffic is that we're looking at data from 2023 as well. So that's 3 years to consider. We don't know what happened in 3 years and how much it increased the daily traffic. My second concern is that I believe 28 spaces of parking is not really gonna
Hundred and
mitigate.
twenty-eight.
Oh, 128.
Hundred and
My
twenty-eight.
apologies. That is at 28
No,
parking.
128 new spaces for the high school.
At that, it's almost like a double-edged sword though, because 128 spaces might fix the problem today, but 149 homes that are coming might kind of put us back to zero.
And commissioners, just to note on the topic of capacity, while the applicant has a 5-year timeline, those 4 commercial lots that are proposed are the only ones that are really serviceable at the time based on the capacity in Danskin lift station, just for additional context on that.
Understood. Thank you, Marina. All right.
Yeah, I mean, Kristen, you're right. It's, it solves a problem, but it doesn't solve the bigger problems of, the high school's at, 104% capacity, something around there, and, adding 149 more homes. Now granted, not all of them are gonna be high school students, and not all of them are gonna have children, but there are likely going to be a good amount of, kids going into the school districts, so.
Yeah, you're right, it solves the parking, but it doesn't solve the school capacity and seats in classrooms. And, at that point, we're almost taking away the quality of education. The more students we have, teachers can give more attention to the more students you have in a classroom, less attention as a teacher you can give your students, so the quality of education decreases at the same time.
Well, unfortunately, the two things that we have no control over are the schools and the roads, which are the two biggest issues that we always have. The added traffic is a concern for me. In addition to the added traffic, the way that people drive now is even a bigger concern. I like the project. I like the green space. I think it looks good. I don't know what we can do about traffic or schools at this point, though. That's kind of out of our purview, so.
I think we have to think about, things are gonna grow and gonna expand. How do we, with a better view, looking forward, how do we control that from the control we have? And so if we allow things that reduce density, what could be denser in the future, or could fit into what we would have in the future, the better selections we can make. I think that they've done an attempt at that. Short of changing all that zoning to R4, I don't know how else we would control the growth to less growth in that area.
On that note, I mean, yeah. Never mind. Don't mind me.
I like it that it's not apartments, but the question is at the right timing.
That was so much better put than I did it, thank you.
I think at this point, I'll stand for a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we recommend denial of case number 25-03-AN.
I second that motion.
Hold on, if we're making a recommendation for denial, we'll include AN 10-S and 2501-DA. We'll just omit the DR. I'm sorry.
Sorry, for the record, Doug Hansen, Planning and Zoning Director. So we would just need a motion to recommend denial of case number 2503AN and 25-10-S.
Thank you, Kevin.
25-10-S, you said?
Yes.
Oh, I see it there, okay. Okay, let me update that. I'm gonna make a motion to recommend denial of case number 25-03-AN and 25-10-S.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. That motion passes. Thank you kindly. All right, moving on to case number 26-02-PP, 2601-ZC, and 26-03DR for Arrow Point Plaza. Troy.
Good evening, Commissioners, members of the Commission. For the record, Troy B. Hunan, Senior Planner, CUNA Development Services Department. The applications before you this evening request a rezone of approximately 1.5 acres from the C1 to the R6 zone, and a preliminary plat approval to subdivide approximately 6.40 acres into 29 residential buildable lots and 4 common lots with 3 additional common driveway lots. This site is familiar to many, and it is located near the southeast corner of the intersection of Hubbard Road and School Avenue. Perhaps the Commission saw it, but ACHD included a determination with their comments for this application that an impact study would not be required because the impact did not reach those thresholds. And if the council will indulge me or allow me, I'd like to just give a small, brief history of the site. This site has been designated on our future land use map, also known as the flume, as public for a number of years, and a lot of that reason is because at one time there was a charter school that was on site, and we didn't know what was going to happen with the rest of it. It was just all zoned that. However, it was all designated that, and it just stayed that way. The map never changed. This application is in a unique position. Part of the site is actually zoned commercial, and part of it is actually zoned R6, which stems from the original applications years and years ago. And even with the flume or the future land use map being designated as public, the current zones actually do provide a lawful path for the development that is before you this evening. It blends in with the surrounding area, and especially the adjacent areas. And since the flume is a guide, it is staff's view that it is compatible with the flume. Staff has also reviewed the rezone, the preliminary plat, and the compliance, and the design review for compliance with CUNA City Code, Idaho state statutes, the comprehensive plan, and should the commission recommend approval of the rezone and the preliminary plat, and if the commission approves the design review application, staff recommends that the applicant be subject to the proposed recommended conditions that are outlined in staff's report. I'll be here for any questions that you might have. I know the applicant is here and is ready to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Is there a prepared applicant presentation?
I'm unaware of one.
Okay. If the applicant's present, if you wouldn't mind, or actually, first, I apologize. Are there any questions for staff?
No.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. And if you'd state your name and address for the record.
Mike Wright, 460 North Redwood Road, Suite F in North Salt Lake, Utah.
Okay. Any general questions for the app, or do you have anything for us?
It's a pretty straightforward, request that we approve the preliminary plat as outlined.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant at this time? Or did I drag them up?
Yeah, I have a question. I was looking at the outline. It says proposed early education building, proposed building, proposed building. Are those, do you have a predetermined usage of that, or is it just commercial space?
We don't. It's commercial space, and they're placeholders right now. We're talking with some people, but nothing yet.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. I apologize for dragging you up here.
Oh, happy to be dragged.
I had a question.
Yes, you did. All right, thank you. All right, if no other questions for staff, we'll go ahead and we'll move into the public hearing portion here. First up this evening to testify, I think I'm gonna butcher this. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, this is Mike Wright. Okay, so you guys are first on the list. I think we've testified. All right, next up on the list is Mr. Laraway.
Commissioners, my name is John Laraway. I live at 9288 South Riley Creek Avenue in Cuna. I was part of the decision when this came down to, we changed it from a special use from the STEM school to commercial, because the developer had about six, I think it was 6 storefronts that he was gonna put in there. And I'm not trying to be poopy about it, but if the developers come in and they say, hey, this is this great plan we have, and we approve it, and then a year later they sell it to somebody else and they come back in and they change the whole design. And this is, I'm not really against R6. I just don't understand why the developers keep doing that, and we keep having to redecide something that's already been decided. And then it comes back in front of you again, and it's a different picture. So I wish we would look at these a little bit stronger. Anyway, I've done enough chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list this evening to testify, Jeff Evans.
Good evening. Jeff Evans, 684 West Wolf Willow Street, Cuna, Idaho. Well, my main concern, and I don't know if we're just talking about is it the R6 zoning of that small section, or can I speak upon the connected?
You can speak to the whole application.
Yeah. So I guess my main concerns would be, we live in Arbor Ridge, so we'd share that common back fence. So I guess Arbor Ridge, we're the north border. There's a big, I'm not a dirt expert or like a volume of dirt. I don't know how many yards of dirt it is, but it's a lot of dirt that they would either have to scoop up in that residential area. Not so much R6, but my question to the applicant would be, are they planning on flattening? That's probably the cheapest way to raise the elevation of that residential area. My worry is, are buildings that are shared with that will peer into our backyards basically, are these like 3-story single-family homes up against that one back fence? I don't think they are, but I wanted to ask. So the elevation, and then my other concern would be, I don't see the map. I briefly met with a gentleman, and saw a plat map in December of last year, and they wanted to add a common space or a park and a common area for this residential area. That was awesome. I don't know if they're replacing that with R6. So that's my second question. Is there still a common area, like a grass area? And then my last question is R6, I know it's medium to high density housing. Is that apartment buildings for that 1.6-ish acres? Or is that medium density housing like condos, townhomes? And that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Jensen, you're up.
Tim Jensen, Cuna School District 711 East Porter Street here in Cuna. Just wanted to come up, confirm, we have been in talks and the developer has agreed to partner with us. I don't have the extent of the details like I did on the last project. We haven't come to those finalized things for an MOU, but just wanted to come up and confirm that they had, contacted us and we've met, but just haven't ironed out details of what that partnership would look like yet. So, stand for any questions.
Do you have an idea what the school district is gonna ask for?
When we go to those meetings, we have a list of capital projects, and they have different degrees. Like level 1 are those main, and usually those are related to like safety issues, and one of those I'll say is perimeter fencing. Like I talked before, I'm at Fremont Middle School, and one of the issues we have is that front parking that we have, overflow parking we have between us and the district office, is wide open for people to park and come on to our campus. And I get it, most people think, oh, there's a track, I can go walk, you know, and it's right in the middle of our lunchtime that's going on. And so those are the type of things that we put up there as the priorities for, you know, first sets of projects. But, yeah, it's a major list, and the list is broke down by school. So I'm currently working with a developer out of Canyon County who their property's in Crimson Point Elementary's boundaries, and so they've asked to do something specific for Crimson Point on theirs, and so.
Okay. Very cool. Any other questions for Mr. Jensen? All right, thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
All right, now that is the end of the list of people I have that have requested to testify. Is there anybody who did not get a chance to sign up that would like to testify in this application, or that had signed up not to testify? If you can come up and please add your name and address to the list, or if you'd like to change your testification status. Probably.
My name is on the list, I just wanted to transfer it from testify to, or not testify to testify.
If you wouldn't, yeah, if you wouldn't mind. And yeah, go ahead and take the podium and
Okay.
thank you kindly. And if you could please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Larry Angel. I'm in Denali Heights. I'm 2265 West Seldovia Street, in Kuna, Idaho, 83634. I'm right in between, I'm just to the west of the first project that we were talking about. I'm directly north of this second project. So our subdivision is an R4. We're 20 years old this year. We've been an R4. We were one of the first R4s in the city of Kuna and so forth. We love our neighborhood. We have a good HOA. We have 3-car garages on every home that's there, and everybody's got, of course, 6 cars. All of these other new homes that you're putting in, the other 29 and so forth, the 149 going into that 44 acres. Again, we're on 44 acres and we only have 83 homes, and we're still having problems with traffic and so forth. But one of the nice things that we do have is because we have the 3-car garages, we are also, our streets pretty much bare at night. And it's a great place for the children. I'm concerned with the safety of this. Right now you have Arbor Ridge Park, and on the weekends, on a Saturday, those soccer fields are filled. They just put in a new pump house and so forth and took up half of the parking spaces for that park. So now you go down, Hubbard gets blocked. There are cars on both sides of Hubbard. They've just repaved it, makes it nice, but they were parking up on the grass that belongs to Denali Heights, ruining our grass. We have to pay for landscaping and everything else to take care of the damage that gets done with that. So I'm surprised with that. I had heard that they were going to put extra parking in to cover that, but it hasn't happened. There is parking that's in front of the old schools there on Hubbard, but those get filled up as well. So I'm concerned with the parking. If you go up and down Kelson, which is just south of Denali Heights, you'll see that there's so much traffic because everybody's got 2-car garages and everybody's got 4 or 5 cars, and they're parked on the street. Their motorhomes are parked on the street, their boats, their trailers. They got speed bumps on there, as was mentioned somewhat earlier, and there's still a lot of troubles on garbage day when the streets come up, even the snow plows in the wintertime. It's because of all the cars that are parked on there. So some of these subdivisions, I would like to see them make the homes a little bit smaller, or add a section or two that's got for extra parking, so people don't have to park on the streets, which is unsafe for the children when they're riding their bicycles and the electric scooters now. So I'd like to have that for concerns. There at Arbor Ridge and Denali Heights, there are no crosswalks. That's a busy street. It was 45, 50-mile-an-hour speed bumps that go through there, or speeds. There's been problems with the traffic on that. So I'm concerned with the traffic, but I would like to see us consider parking areas do something with Arbor Ridge along Hubbard and so forth. You're gonna add more people coming in on Sagwan now into the other subdivision. And I'm all for growth, but my gosh, I moved out here to Cuna, 14 years ago, and I love having the nice open spaces, and now everybody's jammed right in on top of each other, and the parking is atrocious. So, anyway, that's my spiel. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Cheryl.
Cheryl Boyle, 733 West Wolf Willow Street. I'm in the Arbor Ridge subdivision. First of all, standing before you, it's hard for me to give you an assessment of what you're trying to propose and have questions, since visually we don't have anything to look at, just the legal information. And so it would be nice for us to actually see in reality what is being proposed. Secondly, being from Dallas, lived an extended amount of time in Las Vegas, we moved to Cuna for a reason, and that was to get that hometown feel. And I don't understand where the competition is to become a bigger city with other cities. We don't need bigger cities. If we needed bigger cities, I would still be living in Dallas or Las Vegas. There's something about like going to the Cuna Fair this weekend where you walk around and you meet your neighbors, you see your friends, and you're not walking amongst a whole bunch of strangers. And also, not only that, I have found that the bigger the city, the bigger the problems with needing to meet fire and police and schools. And earlier, the lady commented that how great it was to be able to call here to City Hall and actually have somebody pick up the phone to speak to. That's not going to happen if Cuna continues to grow. There's nothing wrong with Cuna stopping and taking its breath and being able to slow down a bit and catch up with what is already happening in Cuna. And I am scared to drive down Deer Flat Meridian in about 6 months when the apartments are done and all the commercials taking place. I moved here because I wanted quiet. The United States and the world is just gone crazy, and I just need a little bit of quiet time. I love living in a community of new, young families, and that's not gonna stay. I thank you for your time. I thank you for taking into consideration Cuna where you live, and hope that you make the right decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of our list for this evening. If there's anybody else. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah, perfect, thank you. And yeah, John, if you'd like to go ahead and take the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is John Dime. Excuse me. My name is John Dime. Address is 2528 West Hubbard Road. We literally live diagonally across the street of Hubbard from all of those trailers in this area that's wanting to be developed. I have just one question and or thought. Seems like whenever anybody's applying for building projects, they all want to change the criteria that was on the maps when originally plotted to change it to an R6 development. We've lived where we are for 11 years, and the various people that we have become friends with and or talked with, I have yet to run across anybody that's happy for the tiny, tiny backyard because they're in an R6 subdivision. The only reason that I have been able to find in talking with even some of the city fathers for the purpose of R6 is for the contractor to be able to squeeze a few more homes in a tiny space so that he can have more money. I would ask you to maybe look at subdivisions like Denali. The people are happier because they have more space to live. And you as a committee are each responsible for different areas of the city, if I understand right, working with the people. Have the people told you that they're happy with R6s? I ask that you might consider not only this situation that you're looking at, but future ones, to keep it at R4 so that we can have some space for picnics in our backyard and places to play. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And then Amy Hobson.
Amy Hobson, 2089 West Sylvia Street. I would like to second that vote for the R4 more often. I just have a great concern about the density as I keep talking to friends, and oh yes, this whole block is going to be housing, and I think there's a lot already in the works, and I felt like I got a little bit of vibe of support from you guys, and I just wanted to say that there's a lot of us feeling that way as well, to keep that community feel that she mentioned. I also, it's kind of a question, how can we help them get on top of the, like the roads and the infrastructure a little earlier, rather than kind of, you know, catching up 10 years late. I don't know where to go for that, but just putting that out there. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Amy. To kind of answer that last question is go talk to your county commissioners. All right, and that does bring us to the end of our list if there's nobody else. Mr. Wright, if you'd like to rebut.
Thank you. Just to address, a few of the questions. The zoning is currently C1 on the northern portion and currently R6 on the southern portion. The rezone that we're asking for is the northeast portion going from C1 to R6, and it's mainly open space, is that what we've asked for. As far as addressing the mound of dirt that's there in the back, currently most of that will be removed and taken away. If it were to be dispersed across the entire site, it would only raise it 8 inches, and there's not any plans to be 3-story, homes there. And as far as traffic and parking go, we think we've been a good neighbor by allowing people at the park to park on our property, why it's been there, and so we're trying to be, good neighbors, and that's a lot of parking spaces that will remain as part of the commercial that can be used at off hours. So that's something to keep in mind when it talks about parking. Then I wanted to ask if you had any further questions for me that I could address.
So off the cuff, proposed early education building, are we talking about something like a K through 8 or a K through 6? Or?
No, it would be similar to a daycare.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would be play facilities inside primarily would be the idea.
Yeah, and small player area outside if we move forward with that.
Okay.
I have a question. You've heard the community and you've heard their testimony. How would it affect your project to occupy that as R4 versus R6?
Well, it's currently zoned R6. We want to remain with that.
I understand that, but if you were to build it to a standard that met R4, you could do that in R6 as the developer.
We want to comply with what's there at R6. That's why we're here for that approval.
I have a question specifically for, the trip generation letter that you guys stated. So when you're comparing the traffic, you're comparing it to a time when that Pi STEM Academy was still open, so it didn't trigger a traffic impact study. But right now that school hasn't been there for 3 years, so.
The traffic, this is brand new from ACHD. They've reviewed our current project.
To current traffic
current.
standards.
Mhm.
Okay, and so with that being said, what impact does this community, how many, 64 homes was it?
No, it's 29 lots.
29 lots, sorry. So what impact is that gonna have on the traffic again, heading south, heading out towards Meridian Road?
Yeah, again, that didn't reach a threshold where ACHD required a traffic impact study.
The only thing I really want to pick on is on the pre-plat, we are looking at, 41-foot right-of-way. And then there's some debate based on this cross-section on exactly how wide the road's gonna be. I've got maybe 29, maybe 27, maybe only 23. Can you confirm the back of curb to back of curb dimension as proposed?
I believe it was on the,
Yeah, it's on the pre-plat, and it's
Pre-plat,
shown at
so-
27 feet, but then it's shown at 29 feet from lip of gutter to lip
we'll
of gutter.
confirm that with staff. I don't have it off the top of my memory right now.
Okay. I think that's the biggest concern I would have is, 36 is not wide enough, if you ask me, but the city standard is 36. So that's one thing that I would wanna see revised on this map. 27 foot from curb to curb, or even 29 from curb to curb, does not allow for any on-street parking, and you're not gonna get away with not having on-street parking. So I think that's for the on-site design, that's my biggest concern. Sorry, I hear the noise and.
I just wanted to point out that even in the ACHD report and in staff's memo, that in the event that it was approved for a narrower street section, that one side of the street would have to be signed, no parking.
Okay. All right, any other questions for the applicant at this point? All right. Thank you, really
All right,
appreciate it.
thank you. Appreciate your approval.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the list for the public hearing. Yeah. Well, stand for a motion.
Make a motion that we close the public hearing portion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Where do y'all sit? Other than next to me.
I'm not tremendously content with, we'll put nothing directed at Troy. I'm not content that we'll put no parking signs on and assume that that will solve any congestion on a too narrow of a road.
Yeah, that's an issue. Even before you get to that point, it's, again, adding more homes, more congestion, stuff hasn't been improved in that area. It's removing, commercial land, an acre and a half of what's been designated as commercial land, which in the, the comprehensive plan, which I know is a guideline, but it's something that was drafted with the intention of trying to guide our growth, so it's taken away commercial area in an area that's been designated as needing that, to keep up with growth, so.
For the record, Troy Buchanan, CUNA DSD. So the request for the rezone is an area that is currently not being used commercially. It is for drainage and open space. So there will not be a reduction in current used commercial land.
What is that land
It's in-
designated right now?
Well, it is zoned commercial and it is designated as public, but right now it cannot be used because there is a drainage system in there and it passes through the site. It cannot be built on. And the benefit to including it with the R6 is that An HOA would then be in charge of maintaining it, and it would remain a nicer element to look at rather than something that kind of gets neglected. We have had other problems in other commercial subdivisions along Meridian Road where commercial development doesn't think about the landscaping, and we have had to remind them that trees need to be replaced, lights need to function, and they can't let weeds grow. But this is not a reduction in usable commercial space.
So looking at the map, none of the building plats, not number 9 and 10, they're not on the,
It's in, if you look on page, on page 179 of your packet, it's in the northeast corner of the site. It is actually Lot 7, Block 1. You can see that there's an existing pond area. There is a canal that runs through that area. And there would be an HOA to take care of it rather than relying on commercial businesses to.
and that's the only piece, it's not lots.
There is a small strip that does run in the street between the commercial and the residential, but again, it's proposed street.
Yeah, no, I think the flop of commercial to open space is not a concern. I'm always a big fan of green space, especially if you give it to somebody who will actually take care of it. As far as that's concerned.
For the record, Troy Buchanan, just going back to the road widths, this is just a they're requesting, right? So if the commission would like to promote or, wider street or something to council, you have that power to recommend that they follow city code or that they follow a different standard. And I'm not trying to say that they're not following city code, because there is a way to request a reduction, but it's a request. It is not a given. So,
Troy, right now, looking at the roads on the interior, it looks like the east-west roads are wider than the north-south roads.
yes, sir.
So do you know what those dimensions are?
At the bottom of the sheet, there are two different sections. Again, sorry, for the record, Troy Buchanan. There is a 47-foot, oh my goodness, technology.
One's a 33 and one's a 27.
Correct.
Sorry, I was on the wrong page of the pre-plat.
So it's at the bottom. There's three different street sections there. 47-foot right-of-way, 33-foot back-to-back, and that is for the local street section. That's just one of them. There's another typical 41-foot local street section with a 41-foot right-of-way, 27-foot back-of-back. And then there's a North School Avenue, which is actually a collector road with a litany of things that they're going to have to do and participate in, that's listed in the staff report and also in the ACHD staff report. It is the goal of ACHD to connect Hubbard Road and Deer Flat Road with School Avenue. Most everything is in place. This is the last section of that.
Can I make a general request to staff going, pointed towards the future?
Sure.
One of the things I would really like to see in pre-plats is just a very clear designation, like even a simple dimension string across the road, identifying these general widths. Because it's not clear except through visual what's going on here. obviously, I'm very used to looking at cross-sections, know what I gotta do, but there are really no indications of the pre-plats of where the cross-sections exist. So I would just ask that some indication is provided.
Perhaps we can do something for the future.
Yeah, if we can just ask on the way through. Sorry, not to gripe. Okay. Other questions, concerns, thoughts?
It's a lot of homes.
Well, I mean, to play devil's advocate here to some degree, and I 100% sympathize regarding R4, and quite frankly, I'd love everything to be 1 acre lots. And I'd love to be able to sit in my 1 acre lot and wave cheerily at my neighbor on the other side of town. There is still a definite need for higher density housing. Unfortunately, with housing costs being what they are, you know, I don't know a lot of 20-somethings who can afford an R4 right now. I mean, starting price in an R4 neighborhood is $650. Okay, maybe $550. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but still. Starting price in an R4 right now, you know, going into sell season, I'm seeing listings at 500 to 600,000 in an R4 neighborhood. You know, and for any hope for the future, you know, if we do want new families to settle in CUNA, and to maintain the young blood in the network, we do need R6, 100%. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that this is the R6 neighborhood that I want. I'm just, as a general rule, I don't want to sour the idea of R6. I think it is very important for our community. And there are appropriate uses of R8 and R12 as well, 100%, near more of these commercial zones. So I just want to throw that out there as just a thought. Yeah, I think my biggest concern with this development right now is they are narrow streets, and it is a single official point of access. There are measures here for emergency egress, going through the commercial parking lot, but, you know, this is 29 homes served by one entry.
Well, and beyond that too, it looks like there's common driveways in the corners there too.
Which I'm actually a fan of, but yeah.
So, well, but when you're talking about not being able to park on the street, you know, in R6, you're gonna have smaller homes, so you're not gonna likely have as much garage parking, no street parking, you know, common driveways, so that's gonna affect the whole neighborhood as well.
Yep. Those are all, and that's all gonna be common problems with a single size product within a community this small. You're gonna have parking problems, you're gonna have, it is what it is, again, but, so, I can argue both sides of this coin.
My biggest concern, and I'm just gonna say it because I wanna say it, but, you know, we can't do anything about it, but my biggest concern is that as we're moving more into people don't go and pick up heavy items anymore, they have it delivered to their homes. I know this, I'm in the delivery industry, and we do a lot of deliveries in the Boise area, and I run into a lot of times when you have a semi-truck, an Amazon truck, and a fire truck, and now it's just it's a mess. The fire truck can't get out, the Amazon car can't move forward, and now cars are trying to get out, parked on the street, so it's a whole mess. Like I said, we can't do anything about it, but it's becoming a bigger problem day by day.
Yeah, and I think the best mitigation for that would be to recommend, I mean, if we move forward with this, would be to recommend the use of the city standard to city council, at the very least.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, the applicant isn't changing the zoning on this. I mean, he's still with the R6, he's still with the C1. My concern is basically the road width. And, you know, it's pretty darn tight in there. There's one exit, that's an issue too, but I'm not sure how we would address that. I just like to see every north, south, east, west, I'd like to see all of them increase the width to where they could
Oh.
park on the road.
So to that note, that is one thing, and and I understand the design challenges with a site like this, but that is one of the recommendation I think we should definitely include to council, would be a dedicated secondary access, whether or not they think that's appropriate or not, or if the developer is willing to do that, I think it's worth making the recommendation.
Well, I'll go back to the point I made before. It's zoned R6. That doesn't mean that the math has to be exactly 6. It also has to have road widths and accesses.
Yep.
And a reasonable design. So, it's, if that makes sense. It doesn't have to mathematically bang out to 6. It's gotta fit on the plot, and it's gotta have ample roadways, and it's gotta make sense.
Yeah, so that does make it hard, because I mean, the kinds of changes we're talking about are pretty significant to a map like this. It wouldn't look very much like this at all.
But, you know, for the long-term, you know, enjoyment and happiness of the people, if these are first-time homeowners that are buying this, you know, the things that they're gonna notice as they move in and as they spend a year or 2 years living here are gonna be the width of the roadways, the access in and out of there, especially, you know, during the day or during high traffic hours where there's only, you know, 20-something homes. It's like, that's fine, but if you have an Amazon truck and a UPS truck coming through and people are trying to get in and out, you know, those are gonna be things that these homeowners are gonna, you know, come to, you know, be upset about eventually. And so, you know, is that gonna be a long-term issue, you know, where people aren't happy with the way it sits as, you know, listed on this plat?
All right, so I'm gonna ask a question. May I direct a question directly at Mr. Wright? I think, is that appropriate at this point? Sorry, I'm looking to city staff to keep me on.
You would need to reopen the public hearing.
Understood. Okay. All right, so where do you guys feel like that? And if we do reopen the public hearing, understood that it will be open to all. So, or I'll stand for a motion one way or the other. If we feel like it's worth asking a couple questions of the developer, great. If not, I'd stand for a recommendation either way.
I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Mike, if you don't mind, I want to pick on you a little bit here.
Sounds like fun.
So the question is, would you be open to bringing this back with the wider streets and potentially punching Iditarod through?
I'm not sure what we accomplished by punching that through. I mean, the whole idea behind the commercial is in the evening. You can cross park on that. It takes pressure off of the residential and the residential streets in the evening. The idea behind it, you know, is that, you know, we have that circular access. We have an emergency access that's there that can be used for an emergency situation already there. So, I mean, we can look at it, we can study it. You know, we felt like this was the best plan that moved forward, that accomplished everything that we needed to along with the city, you know, and the
Understood.
requirements.
Would the business owners be okay with the commercial parking being used by residents?
I mean, after hours, I mean, we have the ability to, you know, have a declaration that can spell all that stuff out. But I'll tell you what, it's gonna happen anyway. Cause that's just what happens.
Yeah, no, that's fair. No, in my mind, the point of punching that through is to provide that secondary access for emergency access. I mean, having a single point of access, even with 29 homes, really bugs me. Plus, you potentially
There really
not be
isn't that
losing
much traffic with the 29 homes
Well,
there's really not.
Either way, you wouldn't be losing much is what I'm getting at. 'Cause
But
you
if we
have a
do,
common
if we do open
driveway.
that up, we have to figure out if it becomes private or if it's ACHDs, right? So we'll have to figure something out that way.
Okay. All right, so I guess the other question still stands though. Are you willing to bring this back with the 36 roads?
We'll study it and look at it and see. We have to see how that impacts, you know, our lot size, because, you know, we hear we don't want smaller backyards, but
Yeah,
that's
no,
what
I
that's what
understand.
happens.
No, I completely understand, but, yeah, it's
But
always a
again,
balancing
you know,
act.
we have the ability to sign, you know, for no parking on one of those signs, and that was our plan.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Oh, all right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Now with the public hearing officially open again, that does give people who have not testified another opportunity to testify in this case. If you wouldn't mind coming and
Yes.
signing in, please. I actually kind of like them. I actually kind of do like them. I hate them. Yeah, I actually kind of like them. I like them. I like the community. There's as many in there as they can. You know what? It actually brings a kind of a cool little community, and it gives you kind of a little place off the street to play.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's only 3 people. I mean, compared to even a cul-de-sac, it's a tighter cul-de-sac. Kind of like 'em. Thank you. All right. Uh-oh, got more coming. No, but honestly, I actually kind of, I like Donald Drive. Yeah, I'm playing tomorrow, actually.
What are you doing?
We're doing drug addiction campaign.
With the guard?
They did their first bust last week.
Oh, really? Good.
Drunk load of good, yeah.
Where? Up in the booty?
Thank you, Kevin. All right, and Kyle Johnson, if you wouldn't mind taking the podium and stating your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Kyle Johnson. I live at 772 West Wolf Willow Street. I'm at the very west end of Wolf Willow Street. My concern to tag along with the street widths there, I work for Boise Fire Department. I specifically drive fire engines for a living. And I work specifically downtown and in the north end of Boise. And I can tell you that those streets, without having to do a study, anecdotally, just for my profession, that's less safe versus, there's a reason we have standards for a 36-foot street. It's not just for convenience of people who live there and delivery drivers, but it's also for emergency services. So we're either going to make our streets safer or keep them as safe for a reason, or we're going to make them less safe. And me trying to get a fire engine through that and trying to access all the homes throughout there makes this less safe because of those those street widths. It's not only response time, but when you talk about, say you get a code blue or a fire back in here, in any of those streets in that horseshoe, you're talking about a minimum of 3 fire engines, a battalion chief rig, a fire truck, which is bigger than a fire engine. It's got a big ladder on top of it, and an ambulance just for someone saying there might be a fire. Now you call and now the fire engine gets on scene and says, oh, there really is a fire. Let's tack on 2 more engines, another truck, another battalion chief, another ambulance, a medic supervisor, and people who want to stop and look too. So by approving streets that are not as wide as they need to be, we're making our city less safe. So say we widen these streets and now we're pushing these houses right back up against my fence to where I can climb up onto my fence and then jump onto the eave of the next house. It seems like that just isn't gonna cut it. And I'm gonna say, because we're all thinking of it, putting signs up that say no street parking has never worked and it never will work. It's nothing but a check in the box that people think they're doing something clever, try to do to get one under us. And nobody appreciates that.
No, it's more work for police department too.
Yeah, exactly. So we're talking fire, medical, and police is gonna have a problem with this. So by approving this, we'll be less safe than we are today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. All right, Robert Boyle. I feel like I had a second one sign in. Did I miss it? Chris Will. Oh, did you switch? Oh, okay, you switched. All right, very good. Sorry, I'll get back to you in a moment.
Robert Boyle, 733 West Wolf Willow Street, CUNA. I'm an architect by trade. Been in business for 50 years. This is your city, not the developer's city. Invite the people in that you want. A backyard, I look at people that have no backyards, and I can't believe that I would ever want to live in a city like that. The people that are moving here are coming here for a reason. We lived in Salt Lake for 15 years, 20 years in Dallas, 18 years in Las Vegas. We love the cornfields, we love the grain. I love where we live. I think we live on the best street in the city. I enjoy looking at the kids. And I agree with you on the street widths. I agree with what several of the people have said here about, but you have the obligation to protect the city. It's not for the developers, it's for the people that live here. And I have worked in I have buildings in 17 states in the United States and 5 cities in China. If you want to see a mess, the smallest city I've worked in China is about 8 million. That's New York City. Largest city I've worked in China is 30 million. 7 states population of America would take to fill that city. So anyway, I would just hope you would remember, this is about the city that you live in and that I live in, and I'd protect it. The developers will always try to get 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag.
Thank you, Robert. And Chris. I knew I missed a check mark there somewhere.
Good evening. Chris Weddle, 708 West Wolf Willow Street. I'm also up here to represent pretty much our entire neighborhood. Our neighborhood comes from various different areas. There's California, there's Las Vegas, there's Texas, and we all came to the same area basically with the same goals, is to get away from the rat race, to get away from the crowds, and to actually have a home that our kids, our street, West Wolf Willow Street, any evening you go there that's over 65 degrees, you've got anywhere from 10 to 15 kids playing on the street. It's fantastic. You start putting more developments with smaller homes, it's just going to become more and more congested. So I'm up here actually to kind of represent our entire neighborhood, because surrounding neighborhoods are all doing the same thing. Okay. Looking at the map, we've had several different maps in the past as well. One of my concerns was our fence line meeting up with the next property fence line. If I remember correctly, there was actually a common way, a pathway between our fence and the next property in one of the previous plans, which is one of the reasons why we bought our house, was because of the view of the mountains. We understood that at some point there may be a development there, but if I'm looking correctly at our fence lines, it's almost 2 of their houses to our house. And with that, our privacy is going to change. Our comfortability is going to change. Looking at the roads breaking through, our street actually is kind of a U-shape, and on one end, it's closed off with the street being broken through. Most likely you guys are going to connect it. That's going to change the safety of our kids playing in the street. We're going to have more traffic going through. We're going to be bringing our kids in or making them play only in the yards, not congregating in the roads. So there's just a lot of safety concerns that I have. And like I said, speaking from Bob, did a fantastic job of basically stating what we all feel and the reason that we come here in the first place. I think that's about all I have. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, that brings me to the end of the list again for this. If you've already testified, we can't, you only get. Uh-oh. Yeah, at this point, you've already testified on this application, I'm sorry to say. So you can only testify on any given application once. I apologize. Okay, if no one else.
Hi, once again, Troy Buchanan, CUNA DSD.
Oh, he needs to rebut again.
No, not a rebuttal.
Oh.
In the event that the commission would like, you do have an option to table this to a date certain, so that the applicant can meet with us and we can discuss some of these things,
Yep.
and we can bring back something that that they've worked on.
Yep. All right, if you want to give us a date as an option.
I think that would be a good question also for the applicant. However, staff would request that it's at least a month out,
Okay.
at least.
Mike, is there an option for you that would work?
If we do the month out, that'd be fine.
All right.
So then with that, Commissioner Clark, then staff would recommend the
16th?
the June 16th,
Yeah.
or no, it would. I'm sorry. We would want to go with the June 23rd.
Okay, roger that. All right, we will take that under advisement. Thank you kindly. All right, and we are still in public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing portion.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you kindly. All right.
I agree with staff. I think to keep it fair to the applicant and to the public, perhaps the applicant might have heard the, public's concern and might want to change a few things. We could table it, to the 16th, I believe,
23rd.
23rd, and, kind of go from there.
Thoughts? Yeah, I agree with that. I'd like to have them look into widening the streets. And after our fireman spoke, that never even dawned on me. I'm wondering why our fire department didn't actually comment on that on this review. So I'd like to look at the fire department, trash, and widening those streets so we have more parking. And as far as backyards, what I'm seeing now is younger people don't want backyards. I've got a subdivision going in next to me, and the size of the backyards are totally ridiculous.
10
So-
foot minimum.
Oh yeah, bare minimum.
Yep. R6 has allowances for very small yards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'll stand for a recommendation one way or the other.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move that we postpone this hearing on case numbers 26-02 PP, 26-01 ZC, 2601 DR, Arrow Point Plaza, to a date certain of June 23rd, 2026.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you kindly. That's my phrase of the day, apparently. All right, well, thank you all who have been in attendance. That brings us to the end of the public hearings for this evening. I'm not currently showing anything under business items or updates. Anything from staff?
For the record, Doug Hansen, Planning and Zoning Director. Just a quick update that JUB Engineers has been recommended and affirmed by City Council to be the consultant for the comprehensive plan update.
Very good. Alrighty.
All right, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.